What's up, everybody? Healthy Living Podcast, episode 11. I'm with Apex Welterweight champion Tristram Christensen. What's up, man?
What's up? How you doing?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Doing great, man. Doing great. Enjoying the weekend.
Did you watch the fights last night?
Oh yeah, man. They were crazy. They dug deep in those.
I think what was your take on Burns and Chimaev?
Man, I thought I was really going for Chimaev. I'm glad he came out with the W. I thought he was going to be a little more dominant, just from his other fights and stuff like that. But I guess I just didn't think, because Usman kind of ran through Burns pretty well. So I was like, oh, I don't think he's going to be that much of a competition. But man, they brought it. They're throwing the entire fight. I got a couple buddies. One of them really wanted Burns to win. He still thinks he won. I'm like, I don't know. Domination in rounds, I think, won, and then it was pretty close in the third one, but I think he took it in the third. But I think he just needs to clean up the striking a little bit, and dude's going to be straight with the other top welterweights. So
yeah, there's a few things I took away from that fight. The first one was, at first glance, I thought Burns won. I was kind of like, he got snubbed out of that. The thing I've learned from watching so many fights is that you kind of have like a personal, you're kind of biased. So like, I really wanted Burns to win. So I was kind of like,
okay.
I
gotcha.
You kind of score it. But then when you rewatch it and you're like level headed, you know what comes, you kind of like, you can see, I see how that got scored that way. And to me, well, really, I think if he didn't get dropped in the first, he would have won that round.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
And then
the first was close. First was very close.
Yeah, and when he got dropped with the jab, I was like, oh, this is how he got finished with Usman. I didn't think that he would bounce back like he did in the second. And then in the third, he just started slow. Like his back was against the cage. And he just looked tired. And when you're in that close of a dogfight, you can't look tired. You can't be back up against the cage. That's just, when it's that close, it comes down to minor things like that.
Exactly. And I even thought Chimaev got pretty tired himself, even after the second round. He was, during the second round, I mean, after the first two, like, he was feeling it. I think they're even talking about him not even fighting at 70 anymore and going up to 85, just because he's a big dude. Like, you like seeing them in the cage together, Burns and him, that's a big difference. That was a big difference. And even like with the wrestling, I think he went two or three on takedowns. It's not a ton of takedowns, but on Burns and stuff, and they were solid controlling takedowns and things like that. I don't even know how much control time he had, but at least 2 minutes of, what was it, probably the first round and the second or third round, I think. But I'd have to go back and watch again just to make sure. But yeah, no, they were competing. It was a really good fight. I could see him fighting Colby Covington maybe next or something like that. I would be pretty good. Just, man, Chimaev has to fix the stamina, because I think Colby would put it on him.
Yeah, I'm a huge Colby fan, and stylistically, I don't think that that they match up too well. Because it's kind of like, Colby has proven time and time again he's dominant. He's going to dominate from second one to minute 25. He's not there to play games. But his striking is so iffy. Like, I don't know. I just
he doesn't have that power.
Yeah,
it's like he's almost a little bit like Max Holloway in that way, where he's just tapping him the whole time. He's put up a lot of volume. And then mixing the wrestling in there. But I don't know if he could mix the wrestling in too well on Chimaev. That's the thing. And Colby's a small 170. Like, he's not much heavier than that.
Yeah.
And Chimaev's a big dude, so it would be a problem. I just don't think I just know Colby is tough. He can survive. So I think if he didn't finish him quick, I think Colby would probably end up winning, just from Chimaev getting tired.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And another thing is that Colby will ride you out. Like, he will throw volume and just ride you out. And I think Chimaev, not being, he's a great wrestler, but eventually, like Robbie Lawler's not the worst wrestler either, and
Mm,
he got dominated, like
yeah,
dominated. And it's just fighting him stylistically is just a matchup nightmare because you can be a great wrestler, but he's just going to throw volume and he doesn't get tired. And I think that's where Hamzat would kind of lose it, like you said, is because if you're not finishing in round 1 or 2, we saw how tired he was in round 3. Just imagine if he had to go 2 more.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
It'd be a super super tough fight, super tough fight.
for sure. So
Yeah.
then we got the co-main event. What'd you make of that? Because I personally had Jan win in the first round and him
Yes.
in 5.
Yeah, same here, same here. I think even Dana White said it was
Yeah,
he had the same thing there. But man, I'm not a big fan of Aljo. He's
neither am I.
not my guy.
I'm
But yeah, no, I definitely thought Jan got the first, fourth, and fifth. Yeah, I know the second and third, Aljo definitely that I would hands down, even I think even with the 10-8, a 10-8 in the what was that, second round, he had his back. That even with that, I don't think Aljo would have won.
yeah,
Like there, it was some bad judging, real
yeah,
bad
for
judging.
sure. And there was bad judging all night. I mean, there was some other decisions where I was like, um,
Mm,
I personally thought the Mackenzie Dern fight was the right decision. I don't see how that went to split decision, but there's a lot of people that saw it the other way, and but it wasn't my cup of tea as far as judging.
mm,
Um, and I thought Jan won the fight. I didn't think because because there's a on Instagram there's a page MMA Uncensored. They posted the scorecards and everyone was confused why there wasn't a 10-8. But if round 2 was a 10-8, round 4 was a 10-8 because Jan did the same exact thing in round 4 as Aljo
yeah,
in round 2.
yeah, that is true. That is true. And yeah, no, Jan, man, he like it was a close fight. It was, don't get me wrong, it was like
Oh,
the
for sure.
entire fight, every round was pretty close. Like it's like obviously super hard to score those things. But I feel like if you're like an experienced judge and like for a UFC fight, I feel like you have to know when to give the person a round
For
because
sure.
there was some definite mess ups. It's kind of ridiculous. It almost brings me back to that card. I think it was last year in Houston. It was pretty bad, and they had a lot of mess ups with that. I remember. I think James Krause was on that card, and he fought one guy that my head coach Zach fought. Um, Trevin Giles or something like that, and that was a
Yeah.
Houston card. And I think Kraus, man, he like had 2 of the 3 rounds for sure, and they gave it to him, the other guy. So I don't know. There's always going to be some bad judging here and there, but
Yeah, for sure.
either way, the division's going to go on. We're still going to get some great fights out of it. So.
Yeah, and then the main event. I mean, I don't see how we can't consider Volk as one of the pound for pound best. I mean, I get it. Izzy's dominant, Usman's dominant, but when you beat somebody like he beat the Korean Zombie, that I would rather, like that's more
Yeah.
dominant than finishing him in the first round. I mean,
Mhm.
you know, you could have called a 10-8 in one of those first 3 rounds. Just you know, I don't know. I feel like you're pound for pound one of the best. And I know, those Max Holloway decisions
We're pretty close. Yeah, they're pretty
pretty
close.
close. I didn't necessarily agree with them, but like I said, it was one of those things where it's like I see how it was, but it wasn't, you know what I'm saying? Like you can see both
Mhm.
sides. But I don't know. After that performance against a guy like Korean Zombie who's been around and fought a who's who of people, you are definitely one of the best.
Oh yeah, I definitely saw that like that fight just being an absolute brawl. Like I know both of those guys bring it every single fight, no matter what. Especially with those Holloway fights with Volk, and I thought Volk won the first one. Like I mean, the leg kicks in that first one were crazy, and like a lot of people are like, oh, it's a leg kick, but leg kicks really hurt,
Yeah.
and they do a lot of damage, especially when you throw over. I think he threw over 40 of them too. Like that's crazy. But in the second fight, I think I had Max winning that. it was still really close, but you could give it either way. I mean, Volk was the champion, so I feel like judges almost maybe give it a little lenient to the champion in a way too. So, but yeah, no, this fight, man. Oh, Volk beat the tar out of him. Man, they probably should have called it a lot sooner than what it was. But Korean Zombie's obviously the zombie, so he's going to keep battling through it, and he's not quitting no matter what. So, I mean, the camp he comes from is crazy too. He's training with Cejudo, John Jones, like those are some guys.
Yeah, so, I mean, if you want to learn how to fight, I mean, there's not really too many people that can teach you better than John Jones and Henry Cejudo.
Oh yeah. They're top of the game. I mean, you got an Olympian in the gym. Oh man, the knowledge you can get from them would be absolutely crazy.
And going back to the Holloway fights, it was kind of the thing where you got the champ is going to get the nod, the kind of the same way where Colby, I think a lot of people thought Colby beat Usman, but in order to be the champ, you got to beat the champ. And when you get down to that split second, you gotta, the champ's always going to get the nod.
Right, you got to make something a decisive win.
Yeah,
to prove you got to prove it, prove you're better, and like kind of getting like on that hairline, like, and you're not proving that you're the better, but you're right there. You're not better. So, yeah.
Exactly. What do you make of the May 7th card? Gaethje, Charles.
Man, that's gonna be a dogfight. I could see someone getting knocked out pretty quickly. It also depends what kind of Gaethje shows up to. If you have like the Gaethje who fought Ferguson and stuff like that, it's Gaethje's winning that. If he's fighting like he fought against Ferguson, Gaethje's winning that 100%. Yeah. But man, like, because like he has the wrestling for it. Like everyone always forgets about his wrestling. He has all these knockouts and stuff like that. But dude has a wrestling background. He's very good. And Charles has pretty good striking, not gonna lie. And ground game is awesome. Jiu-jitsu is great, but he has to get him there and stuff like that. And Gaethje's a tough dude, and you're not going to take him down that easily. I mean, I know Khabib did, but that's Khabib. So
yeah, the thing is Gaethje is a brawler, but he has great wrestling. The only thing is how easily Khabib submitted him, and I know from his back, and there's two things I make of this is Charles Oliveira is a way better submission artist than Khabib. Khabib does not try to submit people. He'll maul you. His goal is to maul, kind of like Colby Covington. Yeah. And so if someone who's gonna maul you submits you like that, I kind of want to sit back and think. I'm like, okay, this guy Charles Oliveira is probably arguably one of the best submission artists in the game. You don't submit Dustin Poirier on accident. That's not.
Dustin Poirier's an amazing ground dude.
Yeah, he's one of the best in the game. So, that's not a fluke. And so when you think of that, it's like, it's either going to end in a knockout or a submission. And if it ends in submission, we know who's going to win there. And if it ends in knockout, we also know who's going to win there, because also Charles has been dropped in every one of his fights. Chandler dropped him. Dustin dropped him twice. Gaethje, arguably Gaethje hits harder than a lot of people, and Trevor Whitman's such a mastermind at striking.
Oh yeah.
You put that power with that technique. I don't know. I just think it's going to end in a knockout or a submission. I don't see it going the distance.
Yeah, it's going the distance. I mean, it's always possible. It's just like when you have someone like Gaethje throwing, man, he finishes people. He has so many knockouts. Dude hits hard, and like you said, Charles has been dropped in his past few fights, so he's gonna have to pull the dog out in him to win this one for sure. And we just talked about proving yourself better. Gaethje's always down to prove himself better. He brings it every single fight, every single time. So it's gonna be a barn burner for sure.
Yeah, I think the people's main event though is gonna be Michael Chandler and Tony Ferguson.
If if Michael Chandler fights the way he fought Gaethje, man, and like if Tony, like if I guess if they both fight the same way they fought Gaethje, like that'd be pretty crazy. Tony, he's getting a little older now, so I don't know how much more punishment that guy can take.
Yeah.
And Chandler's a little older now, but he has a lot of time left, and I think Chandler's gonna take him in that for sure.
Yeah.
I think Tony just kind of lost his touch. He's kind of lost his jaw, and Chandler's gonna come out on top on that one.
Yeah, I mean, when you think of Tony Ferguson, well, first of all, his past 4 fights have been a who's who, like Charles Oliveira, Justin Gaethje. I mean, he's not fighting slouches. Beneil Dariush, I believe he fought. So he's not fighting like bums. Like these guys are legit.
Yeah, he's fighting great dudes.
Yeah, I mean, a who's who. But you can only get in those kind of Justin Gaethje, Tony Ferguson brawls for so long. Like that's not sustainable. Eventually you're gonna deteriorate. And I mean, Father Time is always gonna win in the long run. So when you start thinking of that, it's like, I don't know. But in the same sentence, Chandler's also getting in brawls like that. I mean, his last
one, yeah, man, that last
and he could have won that fight in the third round.
Yeah.
But if he didn't walk forward with his hands down and just get teed off on. And so I think those brawls aren't sustainable. And I think for Tony, he's just, his best days are behind him. And which is sad to say, because when you think of Tony, you just El Kukui, but
yeah, he had that chance. And he had such an unfortunate incident when I think did he tear his ACL or something like that, or something. He destroyed his knee on a cord. So it's like, man, just take that prime Tony Ferguson taken from us, and we couldn't get a chance to see that. I mean, we still see the dude come out and show out every single time, but it's not the same. It's not the same.
Yeah, no. What do you make of Dustin Poirier and Colby Covington? Do you think that fight's gonna ever happen? And if it does?
It could. I mean, Dustin hasn't fought at 170 in a little bit, or I don't even know if he actually has he?
I don't think so.
Yeah, so I mean they're the same size, I would say, just because Dustin's cutting down to 55, Colby's a light 170, so it makes sense that way. And like star wise, like that's a great fight. Yeah, it's gonna sell. It's gonna be headlining a card for sure if it happens. But if it does happen, it's gonna be another, like, no one gets finished, I don't think. If anyone gets finished, it's Dustin finishing Colby.
For sure.
I think just like the striking capability of Dustin. Dude hits hard, even though he's a 55, he's still pretty big. So yeah, it either goes like to decision or Dustin finishes him. But I hope that fight happens. I don't necessarily see it happening for Colby's side, just because Dustin's a 55er and it'd be his first fight at 170, and Colby's trying to get back to the title and win the title. So I don't know if it's necessarily on the path for him, but UFC wants to make fights, they can make fights. And I'm not going to complain if it happens. So
yeah, and I think the other thing is Colby fighting Hamzat, which we talked about that, and then also him going up to 85 and taking on Whitaker and Izzy for the belt eventually. Personally, Colby's already light at 170. I don't think 185 would be the best, but also he's dominant. And we've seen Izzy get dominated by a wrestler, and we've also seen him dominate a wrestler. Although I think Colby Covington and Robert Whitaker's wrestling is two completely different styles. Colby's not looking to finish you. He's looking to lay on you and tire you out, get that acid in your muscles, so you just you're sore. So
you quit. Yeah, make you quit.
And I don't think that's wrestling Whitaker does, or
Hmm.
that's not his goal. And so I don't know. I think Whitaker and Colby would be a great fight, but I think Whitaker's coming down to 70, so he would have to fight somebody else. And Marvin Vittori is up there, Paulo Costa, and so I think those would be also be good fights. But I just don't think going up to 85 would be in Colby's best interest. He's already fighting,
Mm.
but he cuts like what 10 pounds, 5 pounds to make 70.
Yeah, maybe that. So yeah, he's a lot smaller than a lot of people think. And yeah, him moving up to 85, not necessarily a good move. I mean, obviously there's always like a puncher's chance and this and that, but you know, that 15 pounds is a lot different. So I don't, it's definitely not smart for Colby to go up. He can talk the talk and all he wants, but he's never going to go up to 85.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Um and I think him only cutting 5 to 10 pounds and being as dominant as he is a welterweight just is really impressive, because like Dustin Poirier, he cuts like 30 pounds to make 55. I mean, he cuts a lot of weight. But Colby, he doesn't cut weight, and I think that's just a testament to really how dominant he is. I mean, if he was at 55, he would be extremely dominant.
Oh yeah, he at 55, he would. Oh man, he would. I think he'd be instantly a top 3 guy
For sure.
55er. I mean, if not fighting for the belt.
Yeah, I mean, if he's doing this to like legitimate 70 people, 70, 170 kind of fighters.
Yeah,
like,
and like he's doing it to Usman. Yeah, Usman, Tyron Woodley, like
yeah,
a lot of dudes.
I mean, Masvidal's no slouch either. I mean, we've seen Masvidal, stuff some takedowns in box. I mean, we know he can do that, and so, he's not fighting bums. I mean, he 50-44ing somebody like Masvidal is extremely impressive. That's
extremely.
That's way more.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and then what? Two fights with Usman, all 5 rounds, or I guess what? 4? Was it 4 rounds?
Yeah,
4 rounds the first.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So 4 the first time, 5 the second time. So, I mean, 9 rounds with like probably one of the baddest dudes in the UFC. Like, and he would easily put the work on anybody in a lower division. Easy. If he's doing that to a guy who's already like, I think he cuts from like 200.
Yeah.
So he's cutting 30 pounds or so to make 170.
Usman's a big guy.
Yeah.
I mean, his biceps and then his back. I mean, that's not a small dude. I mean, and you look at like GSP, who is also a stacked guy, but you look at like GSP and Usman, they're not even comparable. And GSP's not even going back too far.
No, not at all. And like GSP, I think he only cut like about 20 pounds for his fight. So he was about 190. So walking around, but Usman, man, he's probably he could be a solid 85er too. Like he wouldn't be, he would, I mean, he might be maybe just a little small for an 85er, just a little bit. But I mean, if he was planning to fight at 85, he'd probably put more muscle on and be bigger for this fight. So yeah, Colby fighting a big dude like that, and if he went down to 55, made the hard cut to do it. I think like cutting a lot of weight like that from 70 something pounds is a little rough. So health wise, maybe he probably wouldn't, but it'd be really cool. He'd be dominant.
Yeah, and then we also have Conor McGregor, who says he wants to fight for the belt at 170, and anybody else, you'd kind of look at him crazy, but it is Conor McGregor.
Yeah.
And like he said, when you can rack up $400 million for the company in revenue, you kind of get to do whatever you want. And I think that's a fight. I don't think Usman breaks his jaw like Chael Sonnen says. I don't think, the thing about Conor is his grappling's kind of underrated. I mean, he did get dominated by Khabib, but who doesn't? But there was also in that fight where he was doing good against Khabib. I mean,
yeah.
Never went around against Khabib. That there's something to be said about that.
Oh yeah, definitely. And Conor, like he's walking around like 190 something now. So he's big enough. He's big enough to do it. He's just not super tall. or anything like that, but neither was Tyron Woodley. I think they're the same height.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's not that crazy when you start to look at all the numbers and stuff like that. But just from knowing, oh, he's fought at 45 and he's a 55er and stuff, and he fought like a small 170er in Cowboy and stuff. So
and Nate Diaz. I mean, he fought Nate
yeah.
Diaz twice at 170.
Yeah, and Nate Diaz is actually a pretty big dude too.
Yeah.
Like people, he looks long and lanky and like that, but he's a pretty big guy.
Yeah, but, I mean, that was when Conor was small. He's not like he is now. He's not jacked. Like he was like at that point he was like trying to gain weight to make the weight. So
yeah,
and Nate Diaz at that time was no slouch. I mean, Nate Diaz
that was
a very good fighter.
Yeah, he was fighting all the time. He was super active at the time and stuff like that. So that was no like Nate Diaz fight now.
Yeah.
Or anything like that. Just to bring in like pay-per-view and money and stuff. So
right.
But yeah, no, Conor, I think just from when he broke his ankle or in that fight against Poirier, he just had all that time to sit around and just lift weights. So I mean, I would do the same thing if I snapped my ankle. I'd just try to lift weights as much as possible because that's all you can do. Absolutely. You can't really run around do anything else. So I guess it makes sense, and it's probably a lot healthier for him having more strength around his legs and stuff like that too.
For sure. Do you think Conor can pull it off?
Man, like Conor's ground game, it's good. I think he's a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. And he has a pretty good wrestling coach. I just don't, I mean, he did good against Khabib, and stuff like that, but it's really hard to say. Usman's just so much bigger. Even though Conor put on so much weight, Usman's just so much bigger. And I just don't know how Conor's power would do against Usman, just at that bigger weight, because Usman's used to getting hit and stuff like that. And Conor, I don't think has gone against those big power punchers like Usman. Like that's a big dude throwing back at you.
Yeah.
And stuff. So like, I mean, the biggest dude Conor's fought's probably Khabib.
Maybe Nate.
I want to say maybe Nate. Maybe
Dustin. Like, Khabib, I mean, Dustin is bigger than Khabib.
Are you sure about that? Because Khabib, I heard he cuts like 50 pounds to 55.
Whoa, that's dangerous.
Yeah, I heard he walks around before his cuts at like 200 pounds or so. You could probably look it up.
Yeah.
But Khabib's a pretty big dude. But I guess probably maybe the next biggest dude would probably be Dustin, I would say.
Yeah.
Just size wise, I mean, Nate's more of a lengthy dude, I feel like, but big and bulkier would be probably Dustin. But Khabib, he cut a lot of weight for sure. If not 190 something at least.
Yeah, he says he weighs in around 187.
187
at the start of fight camp. He's at 187.
Okay. So yeah, I guess if he was outside of fight camp, I know I put on a few extra pounds outside of fight camp.
For sure.
So he's probably definitely walking around at least 200. But getting in shape and everything, 187, that's still a pretty sizable cut getting down to 55.
Yeah, I mean, just look at Paddy Pimblett.
What was that? Sorry?
I said just look at Paddy Pimblett. I mean, he puts on.
Oh yeah, I didn't even know he put on that much weight after his fight. And I saw that photo. I was like, "Phew, man, that dude looks like he's just completely out of shape."
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's crazy what fighters can do. I mean, I put on a little bit of weight, but I usually cut around 20. I think my last fight I cut about 22 pounds or so, and then the fight before that, 25 pounds. So I mean, I'm used to cutting a bit of weight, so I know the feeling of it and whatnot.
Yeah, and with a decent sized fight camp, I mean, a 25-pound weight cut, I mean, you can take off 5 to 10 of that just in diet, and then fight.
Oh, yeah.
Then in fight week, you only got to sweat out 10 to 15 pounds, and that's easy money.
Yeah, easy work. And in this camp, I'm actually a little light. which I was like, oh, I'm a little bit more in shape than I thought. But that's always a good thing. Now I don't have to stress about like, oh, I gotta cut all this food out of my diet. I can stay a little bit more comfortable on that part. Won't have to stress my body out as much. So
speaking of the fights, you got a fight May 21st. Is it in Springfield?
yeah, Springfield. I can't quite remember the name of the arena. It's like it has a unique name. It's like,
Yeah, it's the same one that we were just at like a couple weeks ago, right?
yeah.
Is
That same place. Yeah, same place.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, and I assume it's a title fight. Are you headlining?
I don't know. I'm still in AMI, so I don't know if they would have me headline it. Because I know they have another pro on there, Marco Hutch. I think he might be the headliner, if I would have to guess.
Right.
Because I think he's fought in Bellator and stuff like that. He's a great dude.
Marco, I met him in Springfield, and yeah,
he's a great dude. He's come up to Glory, trained a little bit and stuff like that. So I've had a good chance to train with him a little bit too. So
right. So what would you say are you a striker? Are you a wrestler? Because I mean, I've seen you hit mitts, and I've seen you and stuff. So, and you looked good on mitts. So I kind of thought you were kind of a Muay Thai kind of guy. But what would you say?
I would definitely say I'm more of a striker for sure over like wrestling and jiu-jitsu and stuff like that. I definitely want to keep it standing. I definitely put a lot more of my work into my striking and things like that. I feel comfortable with wrestling and jiu-jitsu. I'm not worried necessarily there. There's always things you can tune up and train and whatnot, and I'm always down to do that. But like my main focus, I know I'm really good at striking, so I just want to keep the gas pedal down on that, and keep it almost like an Israel kind of thing. Have super great takedown defense. Don't let people take you down. Keep it where keep them at your range. Keep the fight where you want it and things like that. As far as like a more specific type, we do train a lot of Muay Thai and whatnot. But I switch through. I really like boxing. I'm a huge boxing guy. Even sometimes in my sparring, I'll get a little too boxing heavy and stuff like that. But I switch through. I'll kind of be a boxer for a little bit, and I'll kind of like switch up the stance. I'll go a little bit Muay Thai, start heavy leg kicking, things like that, kind of open it up, do a little more karate, taekwondo type of thing, side kicks and things like that. So I kind of a jack of all trades with striking in that way. So yeah, if that answers the question.
Yeah, no, because me and Mike Murray were talking about, and because I took some pictures, and so he was like, yeah, that dude's a sniper. And then he showed me a clip where, what was it? I think you hit him, some dude with like a high kick, like a right high kick, and then just sniped him and he dropped. And
yeah, that was the Apex 3, I think. Apex 3. It was it was the fight before my title fight. I was trying to set up this question mark kick on him, and so I kind of did. I threw more of a straight on head kick to him. And then right when I pulled it back down, I was like, oh, he's just dropping his hand a little bit by the time anything comes in close to him. So I just did a quick little, I didn't even land the double jab at all. Just kind of showed it, and he just kind of stuck his hands out just a little bit far enough, and I was able to sneak the 2 in right on the money. And to be honest, I didn't even feel my hand hit his face. Like, that's how clean of a hit it was. Like it landed. He fell down. I was like, oh, okay, here we go. Time to, because I jumped on him, threw some strikes down on him. I didn't want him to pop back up. I actually think I hit him a couple times and actually woke him back up too.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. Anytime I don't want to let the situation go he dropped and stuff like that and walk away, and then he gets back up and the ref doesn't call it or something. So I always want to stay on it.
Yeah, for sure. And that's and there's two things: is when you start looking for a knockout, you're not going to get the knockout. I mean, when you start looking to take somebody's head off, you always knock somebody out. It seems like when you're not trying to, when you're trying to set up something else. And that's, I don't know. It's just something that I've seen and felt.
Oh yeah, and I wasn't even trying to like. I wasn't even necessarily like, oh, I'm gonna this left hand. I know for a fact is gonna put him out. It was like I'm gonna throw this 1-1-2. I saw an opening, and luckily enough for me, it landed in the right spot at the right time.
Yeah. And then it's also like, I think it was Matt Brown and Wonder Boy. Wonder Boy dropped him and then like knocked him out, and then was just nailing him with ground shots, and then woke him back up and ended up losing the fight. I mean, waking people up, bouncing somebody's head off of a canvas will wake you up, especially if you drop cold. So, and I've also seen people get finished with an up kick, where you know, they drop them and then just get nailed with an up kick, and that was all she wrote. So, ground and pound is definitely an art that is hard to master because, you know, there's so many different moving factors into it.
Right. And yeah, no, I definitely think, just like thinking about it more and like how many times I've watched the fight over, I definitely feel like either his head bouncing off the canvas woke him back up just a little bit, or me hitting him a couple times woke him back up. But luckily the ref was there to stop it. I mean, he should have stopped it regardless. I don't think I needed to actually like step in. I think the ref was already coming in to stop it anyway. So, but yeah, I never want to be, I guess, not careful enough. So.
Yeah. So you have a title, and although it's an Emmy title, it's still a title. So going into that fight, your title fight, were there any more nerves than normal? Where, you know, would like kind of explain what you were feeling?
Yeah, I not necessarily. I mean, like, there's always nerves headed up to a fight, and I just kind of realized because that was my 7th fight, and over the fights and stuff like that, I was kind of like, oh, I'm super nervous, I'm super like anxious beforehand, and I just kind of realized I'm not nervous or anxious or anything like that. It's just I'm super excited to get in there and do what I love doing, and it was just that the entire camp. I was just super excited to get in there. And I don't know if it was necessarily the title or not, but I just wanted to put in more work, and I knew that I guess this was more of like a visualization, like a physical visualization of what my next goal is and stuff like that. So it helped in that way, just kind of pushing myself and whatnot. But yeah, and it wasn't a super big difference in feeling from my other fights. It's just like I'm always excited to get in there. I'm always going to excited like to throw down and whatnot. I wanted to keep that fight standing a little bit more than what it was, but shit happens. So
Did you finish him?
yeah, so it was a submission rear naked choke, round 1, I think like a minute 12 into it. Yeah, I threw a couple good leg kicks at the beginning, hurt him. He made a like a visual like, oh, like that hurt really bad, and I was like, oh, I'll fake the leg kick again and try to go to a head kick, and I slipped, so I fell down, and I just went in for a takedown from there. Took him down, good little ground control, some ground and pound. Threw a good right hand on him, and he gave up his back, just took his back, put it in right there, and sunk it in. So,
I mean,
and that's all she wrote.
yeah, I mean, when you get in the finish, when you get in and get out, that's always the goal, right? I mean, not like the war is good to put asses in seats, but you know, in reality, you want to get in and get out. I mean, you're not looking for a war.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm always down to scrap, man.
Yeah.
Like, if like he couldn't get back up. He couldn't compete enough to get back up. So it was just full domination. Like I guess he just wasn't ready for the ground game at all. So I didn't necessarily want to take the fight there. I wanted to stand up with the dude, but I'm never gonna be like, all right, like stand up the fight. Like if I have position, I'm gonna go for the finish. I'm gonna do what I have to do to finish the fight there. And like if you don't want me to finish you, stop me. And if you're not gonna stop me, it's gonna happen. So
yeah. No, there's nothing better than when you go in the cage and you get your feet on the canvas and you just realize I'm about to go to war. Like nothing better than that.
Oh yeah, no, such a great feeling, man. It's like that feeling that you get beforehand, like I was saying earlier, like oh, it's excitement and stuff like that. It all comes like, right when I step into the cage. It doesn't go away or anything like that. It kind of zones in.
Yeah.
And not like tunnel vision or anything like that. Like the crowd shuts off. I don't hear people in the crowd.
Yes.
The only person I hear is the ref in there with me and my coach. I can hear my coach any like if I'm on the other side of the cage, I'll hear him on the other side. Like I doesn't matter how like who else is screaming in the crowd or anything, I'm going to be hearing them. So
Yeah, I mean, when you're getting your hands wrapped, it's kind of like, all right, I'm doing this. All right, I'm doing this.
the
And then
build up.
your hands wrapped, and then you get taped and signed, and then you kind of sit around and you're waiting. And especially when you fight later in the night, you're just waiting around. And then once you get backstage, and then once the music hits, then it just goes blank. Like you don't see anything, you don't feel anything. You're just crowd zero. You walk out, you get your feet on the canvas, and then it's just zeroed in, laser focus. I'm here to go to war.
Yeah, 100%, man. And it's always different every fight. There's always something a little bit different. You remember a little bit more, if that makes sense. Because you're sometimes like my first fight, I remember walking out. I remember getting in the cage, and then it kind of started, and then the round ended, and then there'd be like a little exchange, and then it'd be like, oh, the round ended, and then you watch it back, and it's like, oh, all that happened too. I didn't realize that. And then the second fight happens, and you remember a little bit more, and then third, fourth, fifth, and stuff like that, and you just feel so much more comfortable being in there. And then like my other fights, I can like recall every single moment, like every single punch I'm throwing and everything like that. Like I remember it all, and like I feel like I'm there more, experiencing it. If that makes sense.
Well, yeah, and what a lot of people do not understand is like when you watch fights, you're like, oh, that hurts. Ooh, that hurts. But in reality, you don't feel anything until
Oh, yeah, until afterward.
until you leave and you're like, oh, okay, my arm's sore, my jaw's a little sore. But other than that, you're like, you don't feel anything. The only thing that you that I've ever felt is a checked leg kick, bone on bone, shin on shin. That's the only thing that I've really felt.
Yeah, so my first fight, we both threw a kick at the same time, and we hit shins right dead on. I felt the initial, the initial like bone on bone pain for just like a split second, and then the adrenaline took over.
Yeah.
I didn't feel it for the rest of the fight, but after the fight, I had a welt on my shin for probably like a month and a half that like didn't go away.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was that repercussion from it. But yeah, you don't feel too much when you're in there. It kind of, I would say you're gonna feel more of the pain and stuff like that in the first round before you get warmed up and everything. Once you start getting warmed up, it's a little different. You start to feel a little bit less pain and stuff like that. But afterwards, poof, better have the ice pack ready.
Yeah, afterwards you better just accept that. I mean, and it also depends. Like sometimes, like if you're not taking a lot of body shots, you're not gonna hurt as bad as if you were taking body shots. I don't know. Well, actually, you kind of like that's the central of your body, so that's why it hurts more. But like you don't really get. I just don't really get sore after like if I'm not taking too many body shots.
Yeah, it kind of depends on where they hit too. Like, because if you're getting constantly pounded in the liver and like the spleen and stuff like that, like in those exact spots, and it's not just like a punch to like your ribs or something, like yeah, your ribs are kind of going to be sore, but it's not going to be that bad.
Yeah,
But
no.
if you're like hitting the liver or the spleen, like, and you start like repeated shots, that's the damage from that is going to bleed over a lot more, and it's going to hurt a lot more later on and stuff like that. Maybe not so much in the moment, but later on it's going to be a little painful for sure.
For sure. All right. So yeah. Yeah, body shots. And like there's nothing that hurts more in sparring or anything when your hands are high and you just get nailed with a front kick. Like, say what you want, but a front kick right, like center mass, will just
Oh yeah, right in the solar plexus.
yeah,
That yeah, it takes the air right out of you. And like
yeah,
sometimes with those front kicks, especially if they really dive the toes in and stuff like that, it really hurts. I know Zach has a kick that he likes to call like the ninja toe. And you kind of, it's not really necessarily a front kick, but you kind of want to throw like a body kick in a way, but you turn your foot in to where it's like a teep almost. And you really drive it into, usually you want to try to throw it to the liver and stuff like that. And that right there, you can throw that through like the body pad and feel it and stuff. Like there's something about digging your toe in that hurts way more than just like a blunt impact of like a foot or something.
yeah, for sure. And and crescent kicks hurt too. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
crescent kicks are the worst.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I like to throw some fun kicks. I know my training partners hate it when I throw my question mark kick, because I always get like a rear teep going, and then I'll boom whip out the question mark kick, and they're like, oh shit, where did that come from?
Right.
And stuff like that. Heel kicks and spinning back kicks, like they're all fun to do.
Yeah, and especially when you rep it so much, where you can, like Sean O'Malley does it the best, is when he's spinning, or not even Sean O'Malley, Conor McGregor, his spinning attacks are crazy fast.
Oh yeah, they come out of nowhere. And same with Wonder Boy.
Yeah,
Wonder
Wonder
Boy
Boy,
is
yeah.
insane. I watch a lot of just the way he kicks.
Mhm.
I try to replicate that. I know he's gotten a couple knockouts in kickboxing and MMA. He'll throw a jab and he'll step back and do a lead side high kick, and he'll land the foot, not even the shin, the foot on the jaw, and knock him out.
Yeah.
And it's like, poof, getting skills like that is perfect, because like usually when you get kicked in the face with a foot, you're not going to get knocked out too often.
Right.
And stuff. Usually it's the shin that lays the power into it and gets you put on the floor.
Yeah.
But he's just so good that he doesn't even necessarily need to do that.
Yeah, I mean, that's just what a lifelong full of martial arts is going to do, though. I mean, that guy's a specialist, and it broke one. I wouldn't say it broke my heart, but it definitely upset me how he just got kind of dominated his past two fights. I mean, Burns and Bilal just took him down and manhandled him, and I thought he was going to do better than that. I mean, Chris Weidman is a wrestler, and they're so buddy, and GSP as well. I mean, he brings in all those guys who are great wrestlers. I mean, it doesn't get much better than GSP and Chris Weidman, and I just thought it would go a little better.
Yeah, same here. I mean, he fought some guys though. Like those are some good wrestlers, and to be honest, I didn't think he did that bad. I mean, he's getting older now. I think he's 37, 38, something like that.
Yeah.
He's getting older. And those are some younger guys that, I mean, those are top dudes too. Like Burns, he's a top guy. He's probably, if like the best jiu-jitsu guy in MMA besides Oliveira, I would say. Like those two guys are, maybe Damian Maia's in there.
I mean,
and stuff like that.
Prime though. Damian Maia
Yeah.
isn't, I wouldn't say is I wouldn't like lose sleep over his jiu-jitsu like I would 5-10 years ago.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. But he has some guys in his gym to help him, but there's only so much you can do. And the guys he fought, man, they're dogs, man. They're really good wrestlers, and to be fair, he did a decent job against those guys too.
Yeah.
I mean, for just being doing what he's known for. Mm-hmm. And stuff like that, and he's still even if it was any kind of stand-up exchange, even with the Burns fight, Wonder Boy was winning the stand-up exchanges every single time. It's just like you have to limit that ground control, and there's only so much you can do. You're in a cage, you're eventually going to hit a wall or something like that, and you're going to have to grapple. So
yeah, I think someone's grappling who's so slept on is Alexei Oleg. I mean, we saw him yesterday. I mean,
mm-hmm. He has
40 something submissions.
He has how many submissions?
I think it's like 40 something.
40 like professional.
Yes, he has 6.
Oh, professionally. Okay. Because he has 19 or 20 in the UFC.
Yeah, hold on, I'm gonna look it up.
Okay.
I need a Jamie.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, his jujitsu is so slept on. I don't.
Yeah, we were because he had that. It was just like a little cradle neck crank that he got the dude with, and at like the first sight, I was like, did he really tap to that? And then once they replayed it back and zoomed in on it, I was like, oh yeah, I've kind of been in that situation before, and I know if they're a pretty strong dude, that's hurting your neck for sure. And there's like it could definitely break if he keeps going that way.
Yeah, he has 47 submissions.
Man,
That's crazy.
that dude's insane. That dude is insane. And he's like 40, 40, 45, I want to say. 43?
43. Yeah.
43.
And
Yeah, old dude, man.
Oh, wait. In the UFC, it looks like he has 7 submissions.
Seven. Okay.
Which is still a lot.
Oh, yeah. It's that second most in UFC history, I think.
Yes.
Or UFC heavyweight history.
Yeah.
Something like that. First or second, because that's a lot of submissions. And he's a pretty old dude too. I don't even know how much longer he's going to be on the roster.
He said
just from
to go 2 more years.
2 more years.
Put him at
I think they could give him that, especially if he's winning and stuff.
When you're getting first round finishes, I mean, he's going off the back-to-back first round submissions.
The only thing is, who are the guys he's fighting and stuff? You know?
That's true. He fought that Ilir Italif guy.
The guy from Sweden.
Yeah, and I think he trains at All Stars with like Hamzat, Gustafsson, Darren.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a bad gym for wrestling.
Oh, and I'm not diminishing the guy's ground game at all. Or anything like that. But like, if you're fighting like just like the newer guys coming in at heavyweight, then it's not much of like you're moving towards the title kind of thing. But I think him against forget who the guy is that's fighting for the title right now at heavyweight.
Well, there's what's his name?
Oh wait, no, it's Ngannou. Sorry. I guess I was thinking the light heavyweight. My bad. The Brazilian guy.
Oh, Glover.
Yeah, Glover. For some reason I was thinking he was heavyweight.
Honestly, I think Alexei has a chance, and this is crazy, but I think he has a chance against those top level guys. When you think what's Ngannou's weakest what's Ngannou's weakest thing? Grappling. What's he look human at? Grappling.
Yeah.
What's Alexei good at? Grappling. When you have 47 submissions, like, I get it. Oh, he was stuffing Stipe's takedowns and beat him on the feet. True, but Stipe doesn't have 47 submissions. Stipe is not a
Right. And that's one thing I was thinking about, but Francis has that power, man.
Yeah.
There's just like, it would be scary trying to go in and get a takedown on a big dude like that. And Alexei, I think he's a smaller heavyweight, isn't he?
Yes.
He's like probably more same size Stipe, if not a little bit smaller.
Yeah, he's like, I think I just looked at it. It was like 234.
Yeah, see, that's kind of a smaller heavyweight, and Francis is, I think, cutting to make 265.
Oh, for sure.
So like that's a big weight difference. So we were talking about just like with Colby and having just a few pounds making 70, but if you got 30 pounds fighting someone else, man, it's gonna be like trying to take that down. Like, Francis is a big dude, like he can obviously get taken down by a good grappler, but it's gonna be a challenge, and you have to get in there to get the grappling exchange going. So yeah, it would be interesting.
I still think Gon's gonna be champion. I think, in a rematch, I think Gon wins. I think Gon runs that division for a while. You don't move like he does. You don't, and he has some work to do in the grappling department. But that's also wasn't his game plan. I mean, if I'm going in to fight somebody like Francis Ngannou, I'm like, okay, this guy's going to stand and bang with me, and I know he doesn't have anything for me.
Mhm.
Ngannou is the best heavyweight striker we've ever seen, and so I wouldn't game plan for wrestling. We've seen his wrestling. It's god awful.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't game plan for it. And I don't know if it was just because Gon doesn't wrestle or he didn't really prepare for that part of the fight. Because
Mhm.
preparing for a heavyweight fight, I imagine, is a little different than preparing for like a 170 fight or a 155 fight. Because 170 and 155, those are average sized humans. Like even
Mhm.
185, those are still very average sized humans.
Yeah.
They're still fast. I mean, but like when you get up to like 205 and 265, you're you're going to be a little more lethargic and obviously have way more power, which is
Mhm.
why people like Ty Tuivasa and Derek Lewis can hang around so much, because you don't really have to be technical. You just got to land one. And
Throw, yeah, because you're just that big. You can just land one, and that's it.
yeah, exactly. And so when you start thinking about that, if I was preparing for a heavyweight fight, wrestling would be like one of my least concerns, because not many heavyweights can technically grapple. Like,
Right.
I mean, watching heavyweights grapple is awful.
Honestly, it's a big. It's like watching like two bears like run into each other
Yes.
and stuff, and just kind of like if you ever seen like a video of that, like two bears fighting, it's exactly what it looks like. And yeah, it like having like two big guys like that, it's always going to be a striking match. And the way I always see heavyweight matches is if someone's not knocked out in the first round, the next few rounds are probably going to be pretty boring
Right.
because they're going to be gassed and things like that. And that's, I think, another thing why they don't wrestle too often,
Hmm.
because they get gassed pretty fast
Right.
and stuff. Because like, yeah, like they're a big guy and they got a lot of muscle and things like that, but the person they're going against is just as big or bigger than them. So it takes a lot of work to do that, and especially you got all your adrenaline going and things like that, and you're throwing these heavy power shots. And man, throwing power shots takes a lot out of you,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
all those guys throw because they want to put them out quick.
Yeah. So kind of want to shift the focus. So you're an amateur right now.
Yeah.
Do you have what's your roadmap? Do you want to get to like 10 AMI fights before you turn pro? When you want to turn pro, and like kind of what are your goals as far as your fight career?
I got you. So I want to be the best amateur fighter I can possibly be. And I don't want to. I'm waiting on more like my coach Zach to make that decision for me. I want him to tell me like I think you're ready, because I always trust his decision. Like
Yes.
he's been in the game so long, he's taught me everything I know. So like I'm gonna trust his decision 100%. Ideally, I would like to be a pro by 25. I'm 23 now. I'll be 24 in June. So probably like hopefully another year and a half or so, I could probably be pro. I want to try to get 4 fights in this year, 4 or 5 fights. I want to stay pretty active. Yeah, so I just want to keep winning. It doesn't. I don't think even if I do lose, I don't want to. I'm not going to let just an amateur loss distract me from my goal. Because at the end of the day, being an amateur, it's like it's a learning experience. You're gathering all the knowledge that you possibly get from before you go pro. Because when you go pro, like your amateur record goes away, and your pro record. So that's it. So you want to try to be as good as you can be as an amateur. So I want to just try to, grind away at being where I am at, and just pushing forward from there. Just kind of waiting on what my coach says and things like that. I definitely, I still think I have a lot of work to do just in all my different things I guess if I were to go pro like tomorrow, like I would be like, yeah, no, there's still a lot of stuff I need to work on, a lot more experience I need before that happens.
So a lot of people have like just one goal they want to accomplish, whether that's the belt, whether that's just to make it to the UFC. What's your goal?
So I mean, I'd like to get to the UFC one day. That'd be awesome. They like any pro fighting promotion. That'd be super cool. Like I'm a super grateful guy. Literally any opportunity, I'm going to take it. And if that leads to never fighting in the UFC or like only fighting, like even if I do get there, like Bellator and things like that, like I'm totally okay with that. I'm following my dream. I'm following what I love to do, you know. So like anything along those lines, man.
Yeah. And so do you have, I mean, as far as your fight career or like your skills, like do you have any goals you want to do before you hang up? Like do you want to get your black belt and try
Oh yeah.
to or
Oh yeah.
stuff like that?
Yeah, I'd definitely like to get my black belt in jiu-jitsu someday. I definitely don't mess with the gi as much as I should. Anything I'm wrestling or doing no gi and stuff like that. So like I definitely like to get a black belt one day. I know it's a long journey, a long journey. But I know right now I tend to more focus just on the MMA aspect of martial arts. Um, of I guess like yeah, you incorporate jujitsu into it, but I always feel like if you focus too much on one specific art, it kind of comes more dominant in your mind. So if I'm in an MMA fight and I'm training jujitsu pretty heavily, I feel like for me anyway, I'll if I get in a situation where I'm on the ground, I'm going to want to play jujitsu and not get up and throw punches and do what I'm like really good at, that I know what I'm really good at, you know.
Yeah, and I think that's smart because um when you train in the gi for or I guess I should rewind. Training for what you're doing, training for application. In the gi, you're not training for what an MMA fight's going to be like. You're training
Yeah.
for jiu-jitsu competition,
Mhm.
right?
Exactly.
And so when you train, it's just not applicable to what you're trying to do. I mean, like if you're in the gi, I mean, you know this. I mean, there's collar chokes. You can pass guard with the pants. I mean,
Mhm.
there's so many different things that are applicable in gi jujitsu rather than no gi jujitsu. When you're in a fight, when you're half naked in your underwear fighting another dude, you can't grab pants
Yeah, yeah.
to pass guard. You can't do that. You can't grab on a collar and Ezekiel choke them.
Mhm.
There's just so many different things that you just got. I feel like I've always been a big believer in training for it was applicable for me. And now maybe when I'm 40 and I hang up the gloves, then maybe I'll get into the gi.
Mhm.
But until then, I don't really feel like gi jiu-jitsu is really applicable for what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, so like I mean, there's definitely like fundamentals with like the gi jujitsu and stuff like that that I think like every jujitsu practitioner should know.
Mhm.
Um and I'm still a white belt. I will compete with literally anyone. And like the guys that at Glory, like they know that like I'm not gonna back down just because like, oh, you're a cool belt or a brown belt. Like I'm gonna go with you, I'm gonna go hard. And you know it's gonna be a good round. It's like not gonna be shit and stuff. So yeah, there's definitely some like application that I look for nogi for MMA. But like with the gi, there's like small things that you can transfer over that helps you build a strength for grappling, like a strength in grappling in a way. And it also like when you have that thick canvas thing on and you're sweating and you got someone else like you're like on top, like in top mount on you and stuff, and or they're choking you or in a head and arm choke or something, and you're just suffocating with like this thing in your face and all that, like it almost helps you uh like calm your mind down. It helps you understand the pressure that you're in
Mhm.
and stuff. And then when you go to like nogi and stuff like that, you can breathe a little bit more. You have a little bit more wiggle room
Yeah.
and things like that. And with the gi, I feel like you can take away the wiggle room and stuff like that. And that fundamental from that is a good application to MMA. But always training in the gi and things like that, I feel like is going to prioritize your mind for more of a jiu-jitsu competition rather than an MMA fight.
Yeah, but and also there's some truth to be said about being with that cloth in your face and stuff. It's going to be worse than what you're going to experience. So when you're in the MMA competition, let's say you're in an octagon and you're in, a head and arm choke, you're going to be like, oh wow, this is a lot easier to breathe because the gi's not in my face. So then you're going to be way more relaxed. in that aspect as well.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So we hit an hour. So
Okay.
that's good enough for me.
Okay. Cool.
I can't thank you enough for coming on. I'm excited to see your fight May 21st.
Yep.
And we'll be in touch. Do you want your social media links in the bio, in the description and stuff?
Yeah. That'd be cool. Yeah, I think it's just Instagram. I have Facebook too, but that's just my name.
Okay.
But yeah, you have my Instagram name.
Yep.
Pretty sure, right? Okay.
So yeah, I'll put the link in the bio. Thank you everybody for watching. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and we'll see you guys next episode. Thank you.